you get withdrawn. You don't. You get tired of fighting. You know, when you have to fight everything,
right?
And these are your kids. It's not like you don't want to see them. You know, it's not like you're not making an effort. You know, when you're involved with your kids, they become your life. Like anything you have to take care of.
Did you find yourself like were you crying? Did you start doing drugs, drinking?
Not crying,
There's nothing wrong with having trauma. We all do. You just need to do something about it. Come on, unpack the trauma with it. What's up, fellas? How y'all doing today? Man, I'm thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
How you feel?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good, man. So excited to have another episode of My Turn to Talk. So again, it's exciting to have everyone here today. I want to thank you all. Also, before I get started, you know, we got almost 4,000 subscribers already.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And that's less than 2 months. And only 11 videos. Yeah. So, man, so I'm so grateful for that. So, but today, again, if your first time tuning in, what the show is about is breaking the stigma with men seeking support. And I just talk to a lot of men that say, I don't have trauma. You know, I'm good. Right. But trauma really is defined by any emotional response to a terrible event that overwhelms the capacity to emotionally digest it, or any disturbing experience that results in significant fear. So, or helplessness, or dissociation, confusion. So we got all kind of trauma going on all the time. And I found out when I talk to men, they say, no, I got it together. For men, because when we don't deal with it, we assume we got it together. Right. But it's in there. But it comes the other way, maybe sexual addiction, pornography, inappropriate relationships, or things that you're trying to deal with it. Or, you know, sometimes people start drinking or smoke, you know, drug addiction. All those things are getting away. So that's why today I'm so excited that we put this together. It's been great response. People are loving it. I'm really excited about today's episode. Again, we're going to talk about custody trauma for men and how that's challenging for them. I got 3 excited guests today here. Again, I'm your co-host, Dr. KC, or Dr. K, some call me by. And then we have a co-host here. Rodney, you want to say anything?
Hey, I'm excited to be here, especially on this topic. Is something. Oh man, it's powerful. You can bring this up anywhere, subway, bus, anywhere, restaurant. This is very important to men. And I wanted to thank everybody that subscribed and keep sharing and keep liking. We appreciate it. And this is something that we need. Men, we need this platform. We need this outlet to be vulnerable and be in a safe place.
Right.
Welcome to our guest today. We'd love to have y'all. So I'm excited to get into this topic.
Yeah. And real quick, we have a call-in guest today.
Yes.
And in the studio, we have Randy and we have Mike, a.k.a. Big Mike.
Yes,
and so we're going to let these men tell us who they are, where they come from, maybe occupation, what do you do? Just kind of set the stage for us. So let's go with Randy. Tell us who you are, Randy.
I am Randy, Los Angeles native, lived in San Diego last 19 years. I retired. I'm about at 40. I retired.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Started going independent, investing in property, and just kind of, just building and remanufacture my own properties, and just kind of being an entrepreneur in that aspect. Aside from that, I pretty much dedicated at least the last 8 years to being a dad. Almost 9 years just to being a dad. So
okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where I am.
Oh, awesome.
Right.
We're glad to have you because it's a big sacrifice. You drove down to the Antelope Valley where our studio is, and so really appreciate that.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah. And so you're welcome. And then Maurice, you are call in. Let's tell us who you are.
What's going on, man? I'm Maurice, by way of Atlanta, Georgia. I live out in California now. I'm a therapist here in California, marriage and family therapist. had a few careers. I started out after I graduated college, went to the military, did that for 15 years, left there, went to the police department for another 10 years, and then decided to go back to school to get my degree to become a therapist. And now I'm a full-time therapist. I got my own kids, got three of them. One of them one step kid that can be trying sometimes, but it's all part of life. I'm glad to be
Right.
here. Thank you for having me.
Well,
Yeah.
appreciate you. Thank you for being here, sir. Appreciate you. And then in the studio, we got Mike, a.k.a. Big Mike. Tell us
Mike,
about
Yes,
yourself.
sir. My name is Mike. From way up in Inglewood, California. I've lived out in Antelope Valley for now about 13, 14 years. I never saw myself coming out here, but I'm glad God pushed me this way. I've had many occupations. I've been a home care provider. Also, I've dealt with kids that have been in the juvenile system. That was my main thing. Been a school teacher, first grade. Also, I'm a professional chef by way of love, not trade. Went to a culinary school in Pasadena, and I'm a security supervisor at this point in time in my life. And thank you for having me.
Man, I'm glad to have all you man. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing that, Mike. Great resumes of all you guys. Awesome. So you guys have so many different type of things you do. So you're going to bring so different many layers to this conversation today. Okay, so we're talking about custody battles for men, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, before we get to that, divorce itself is already hard. People say you go divorce, I almost feel like a burial.
Correct.
Yeah, it's just painful. But then when you got kids involved, it makes it even more taxing, right? And so I think about my my brother who went through a divorce. Well, he went through several divorces. So, but I particularly I know how he felt bad when he with the kids. It hurt him. Right. He loved his kids. You know, when the house is breaking up, you know, it's just different. Who gets the kids and that all those things that sometimes assuming that men got together, and most of the time, you know, the wife or the girl gets the kids, right? That's the truth, right? And so, and then sometimes, and I hate to say this, some men feel like they go to court, they're like the villains, correct? Assuming you had to do wrong for the relationship to dissolve, right? Is that true? We're gonna keep it real today, right? Yeah. So like, you got to be the person that's bad. And I've heard people have nice stories, nightmares of stories. That I go into court and the judges be all on me, you know, and the other person really was the reason they the one who wanted a divorce. Right. And so, and men's battle. I have clients that go through this right now, you know, in my profession that I see in my prior practice. So with that being said, you know, you guys tell what's some of the things, you know, before we get into some of the emotional trauma that you had going through this.
A lot of depression. You know, when you go through a divorce or a breakup and you have children, especially if you're a hands-on father. Dude, that's the thing. When you're a day in and day out father, and I have girls, and most of you guys, because my girls are older. When I met you guys, I didn't. I'm a self-contained person. I share if I get close to you, but if not, then I keep it to myself. Right. And it hurt me so bad to where it almost halted my life. My kids live in Virginia. They were born in California. My ex was getting child support from 2 different states. I had a mandatory situation as far as I had to go see my kids every other weekend. I was flying from California to Virginia every other weekend. That's like a 6.5 hour plane ride. So when I touched down on a Friday night, I would have to either go get a room or just rent a car and stay in the car and try to go see my kids on a Saturday and then try to leave back so I could make it to work on Monday. I did that for like 6 months. Luckily, the profession I had, and I think this is why they, I don't know why they made me kind of do it like that, but this is why they did it, because I was in real estate at the point in time. I was making decent money, so I could do it. But when somebody plays games like that, I would go see my kids and they wouldn't be home, or she would get there late. and I would only be able to see them for like 15, 20 minutes.
You flew all the way out there,
right?
And they know you're coming,
right? And then
good point.
When they have another person, boyfriend or fiance, then you have to deal with that whole other thing too. And I try to do everything legally possible. Go to the police station, let them know what's going on. Police don't want to get involved.
And before we get to legal, emotionally, you said depression. What does that look like? I want to know.
You get withdrawn. You get tired of fighting. When you have to fight everything,
right?
And these are your kids. It's not like you don't want to see them. It's not like you're not making an effort. When you're involved with your kids, they become your life. Like anything you have to take care of.
Did you find yourself like were you crying? Did you start doing drugs, drinking?
Smoking a lot of weed, stuff like that.
And this type of show, I want you guys, because what we're gonna do, we're unpacking men's trauma, and so I found out when we tell it authentic, they're like, man, okay, I'm the only one, because I want the men that watch the episode like, hey, man, you're not by yourself. This is part of the pain, the struggle that people don't realize. Say it again. Identification. So and I'm gonna come back to Mike. So how was it for you emotionally, Randy?
I think the hardest part for me was, when you see children who are traumatized, it traumatizes a parent because you're taking on the same emotion that your child has, at least in that aspect. For me, I was withdrawn in a lot of ways because when you're dealing with things like custody, and like you said, a lot of people, they tend to, in any relationship, well, let me say this, in most relationships, I guess, of any kind, the man will normally take the brunt of the accusations. And what I found for me, the hardest part was, in my situation, I was being accused and all those things, so it made it even harder with not seeing my daughter, see, because I'm not seeing her, but I'm not seeing her for your reasons, the mother's reasons. It's not because of me. And it's very frustrating when you know that you've done everything by the book.
Right.
And you still have to go through all the things you go through. And I guess for me, I could say there's a loneliness feeling.
Yeah.
There's how can I put it? You get a point where, I understand what Mike was just saying about giving up. Because, mind you, at my age, I'm 56. My daughter is 8. So I've been here almost a half a century before she got here. So my point is, in being here on this planet, there are certain things I've seen guys go through, like Mike. I've witnessed my friends, Rodney, different people go through their traumas with children and relationships. So for me, I was blessed to have my childhood friend like Rodney or a couple of people who I know would have been there, but they passed. So for me, it's like, okay, well, let me back up and just deal with what I can deal with, which is making sure that above all else, I had to remove how I felt in order to deal with the business. Right. See, so my emotions didn't matter.
That's heavy. So you couldn't even really, it's got chills on me. You couldn't even really deal with how you feeling, because I also had to be strong for what I was dealing with at the same time.
And who I was dealing with. See? Because what happens is, most people don't understand that your emotions are your emotions. Your emotions are your emotions. But when you have to keep it together for someone else,
right?
What do? You have to pack it away and walk away from it. So that's what I put it like this. I was fortunate And I'll get to that probably later in the conversation. But what I will say is very disheartening to know that you're given rules to to live by.
Yes.
But she can break the rules.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I got to live with it.
Yeah. Right. Man, okay. Man, we already just getting started. Yes.
And I would like to say, for any women listening, we love women.
Yes.
Oh,
and we know, and Maurice, I'm saying that because I know we have some supporters, and this is not every woman. There's some good mothers out there working together with the men if the relationship doesn't work, but these are the type of situations or stories that don't get told in the media and everywhere else. We're always the villain. We are demonized as a father. We're demonized as a husband. How do you feel about the outer world, your reputation, how people see you and view you? How important is that to you as a man?
Right.
Very important. Very important. Because the thing, the thing of it is very important because in a lot of cases, this is how you make your living.
Yeah.
This is how you are perceived by your constituents, your community, and when you have a situation where you have blatant lies, people don't know what to think. Because even in my case, you can have some things that are said, and people who know me know it's not true. They know that's not my character. But it's a child talking, so they have to listen. Right. You see? And when you have that, and I have a daughter. So what happens is when you're looking at the perception, because when you walk in that courtroom, you are a target. Right. Okay? And unfortunately, it's a situation where you have people who when they're looking at you, they've made their whole assumption in 1 minute.
Yeah. True. That's heavy.
And that's the hard part.
I think I love what we're sharing already, and I love that Rodney said again. So this is our truth today. This is not about badgering women. Right. We're showing you today because people assume we good, but we battle too. Sometimes they focus on the emotional trauma of what she's going through. But the man's going through it. I hear what Mike said. He started, with substance abuse. That, we're just trying, because you don't have a community to talk about it. Because, again, that false masculinity, I got to be tough. So, Maurice, I want you chime in and say, what emotionally, for you, how did it bother you?
So, for me, and I think it started from me making the decision to get divorced. Because in my situation, I was the one who filed for divorce.
Okay.
And so, for me, I had filed for divorce because I was in about a year and a half in. For about a year and a half before I filed for divorce, I was there just because of my kid. And my situation growing up as like with my daddy's situation, crazy situation. But because of that, I was like, I don't want my kid not to have a 2-parent household in that sense, right? And so for a year and a half, I suffered through to the point to where I had to be like, I would rather have my kids see me happy and be in the happy state opposed to be miserable. And because at the end of the day, someone's getting shortchanged because of my pain and so forth. And so for me, I think when I filed for divorce and went through the divorce process, I told her, you can have everything. I don't want nothing. Just give me 50% custody of my kid. That's all that I want. Because granted, at this point, I had been through therapy for the first time, I had some transformational breakthrough. And so I was good with myself. However, when we went, and my ex-wife at the time, because she was bitter about it, no other way to say it, she was bitter about it because I filed for divorce and so forth. And she knew the only way that she could hurt me in any sense is my son and to keep my son from me. And for me, I'm like, okay, I'm not worried about it. I'm cool. I get my lawyer. We go to court. Now, granted, at this time, I had, my wife had never seen me drink. I didn't even smoke a cigar or anything around her or anything because at that point in my life, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke or nothing, anything. I was with no substances whatsoever. And so when I went to court, I'm thinking like, there's no stain, there's no tarnish on my name that's going to prevent me from getting what I want, which is 50% of my custody, and she can have everything. And I go to court, and granted, at this time, I'm like 5 years, about 3 to 5 years deep into the game of being a police officer, right?
Mm-hmm.
No record, no nothing, never been arrested, none of that stuff. I go to court, and I think it's gonna be a simple, okay, court proceeding. You have everything in my custody. She gets there, and she says, "Oh, he smokes, he drinks, he goes out and party with his frat brothers every week, and so forth and so forth." And so I'm like, what? And so this is when I realized that the system is not for men at all, because I'm a full-fledged police officer. I get drug tested constantly. I don't have, even as a police officer, I had never had a complaint, against me. And so it was like, no, we're going to give her all the custody. You can see him every other weekend, and then until we go to mediation. And on top of that, you're gonna pay child support until we come up with, and at that point,
well, hold on, let me digest that. Oh my God. Keep going. All right, let's keep going. All right, go ahead.
at that point, I was like, I think that's when it happened for me, because for me, I was shocked. I'm like, I'm done. I've done everything right. I'm doing the right thing and so forth. And then that come in, I legitimately started to regress in the progress that I made through my own previous trauma in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, it was like I went back to compartmentalizing. I went back to pushing everything aside, and and when you do that, it's hard to sit with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to sit with it and accept it, and then you become angry, and you become frustrated, and then you're like, keeping it real, I was like, God, why me? You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, what have I done?
Mm-hmm.
Why me? Because I'm a man of faith, and it's like, Jesus, bruh, what's going on? you know, and
Right.
so I know that everything that God puts us through is for a reason. It's not for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's to be an example, or to use us as some kind of vessel. But at that time, I'm like, don't use me. No, don't use me. Use somebody
I'll
else.
pass.
Okay.
Right. But it's like, for me, I started like, prior to this, I had been through therapy for some previous traumatic stuff I had been through, and out of 15 years of dealing with stuff, I cried, right? During my therapy process, I cried. And so I found myself sitting here. I'll be at work. Fortunately, I had a job. Like, as a police officer, one of my jobs, I was around, I had like special assignments. I would just find myself just crying for no reason, you
Yeah,
know.
suppression.
And then the thing that really hit it is when my son and I, because he was like 3 at the time, he was like 3 and a half. My son and I, we were like this, like I was his world, he was my world, kind of deal. And
Big
then
connection.
during that process, I'm not as around as frequently as I am, and then having to go and like, well, why can't you stay? Well, what's going on? Because he didn't understand what was happening. And so it went from us being like this to being like, okay, you
Mm-hmm.
know, where's my dad at?
Mm-hmm.
And and like, my son, he's 9 now. He's about to turn 10.
Okay.
But 2.5, 3 years of that was all rebuilding a relationship that should have never been destroyed. And
Mm.
as a father, your son, especially your son, that relationship that you have with them, when that's gone, it's like, man, what's the purpose? And you have to like fight every day, and then prove you're always on trial, proving your case that you're not who their other parents say they are, who their other family members say
Oh,
they are.
oh my God. That how many have heard that before?
Oh my goodness.
I was, man. There's so much stuff you guys said. It's so good. I want to keep going. So, man. So before I go, Maurice, you went there for 2 to 3 years. Your custody case.
my custody case, it lasted for about but just right at 2 years. And the crazy thing about it, is every time that we went to like a mediation, she would always tell the mediation, oh, he's a great father. And they'll ask, why don't you just give him the custody? If he's asking 50-50, I have to talk to my lawyer. And then, and the thing that another part that hurt the most is that the mediation person, she was like, whatever I say to the judge is generally what the judge recommends. They take my recommendation and that's kind of what they take. She recommended that I get 50-50 custody. And when we get to the judge is like, you know what? We're going to ease into it. So instead of you having 20% custody, I'm gonna give you 39% custody, and then we can see how we ease into it from there on out.
Even
And
if even though they already agreed in
even
the,
though
oh
even
my
though
God,
the
yeah.
mediation therapist said that 50% custody is what she recommended, and we saw my lawyer and we saw the documentation, and we was like, okay, we're good now. We thought it was open, closed, done deal, we're good, and it was like no.
Let
And
me
I'm
ask this. Let me and I'm gonna come back to that. How long is your custody, Big Mike? Did you go
About 3 years.
3 years? What do you think yours last so long?
Well, the reason why is because we had moved to Virginia,
right.
and then this is the funny thing about it. When we moved to Virginia, when I left Virginia, when we decided to split up, I brought my kids back to California and put them. My father's a paralegal also, so he kind of knows the ins and outs of the legalities of working in the county courthouse, stuff like that. So he was kind of coaching me through, and he was like, "You and the kids don't have it's not citizenship, but it's when you move to another state, you have to be there. Residency. You have to be there a certain amount of time."
Gotcha.
And he was like, "Look, you got to come back to California." And so I got on the plane with my 2 kids, and I came back to California. She didn't come back for like 4 months. And then my father was upset at me because I told him, I said, because I've seen this throughout my family. And what I said is, look, man, those are her kids just as much as mine. And he said, if you let her have the kids, she's never going to bring them back. And my whole thing is about being fair.
Right.
I don't want to do something to somebody I wouldn't like.
Right.
So she took him back, and that's when the whole proceeding, as far as custody battle and stuff like that. I don't want my kids to have to choose.
Right.
That's not for them. Just because you decided you didn't want to be married or you want to be back single or in the streets or whatever, that's on you. But it's not the kid's fault. That's not my fault.
Right.
That's a decision you made, and now we all have to live with the decision that you made. And everybody has free will to make a choice.
That's right.
So I had to be forgiving of that. But like I said, it was 3 years, and to keep going back and forth to court,
expensive, right?
Yeah, like you said, mediation. They don't ask her to pay for that. They ask you to pay for it. The mediation and the court costs and stuff like that.
Right. Unfair. Again, we talk about the unjust. It's not just. We're villainized from the beginning.
Right.
And it's not fair. And this is what I hear men say. We're trying to do the right thing, but then someone else can come and say whatever they want without any proof, right? Supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but you're already the villain, and everything is stacked against you. Right. But people say it's supposed to be for the child.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sitting here because I haven't experienced that, so I'm just learning y'all from, so I'm like, wow, man, I have a patient. I'm thinking, man, I can't the detail but he's been some years. He's like, just keep extending another 6 months. How long did yours go? But we got some good news for yours at the end, though. But how long did yours go?
Mine has been from the beginning for the last 8 years.
8 years?
Well, because in all honesty, my daughter's mother and I were not in a relationship. it happened. We had a child, but for me, irregardless of how it happened, I was going to be responsible for my actions. And I think that when I initially started, you know, I came up with a plan that both of us would, you know, have the custody, you know, and kind of leave the court out of the decision making. So you 12 hours a day, me 12 hours, and we just split everything 50-50, you know, no worries. And it was very difficult initially because, you know, not being in a relationship with a person, and not really knowing the person, you know, I had only known her, 30 days before she got pregnant, you know,